a little bit of the message here. Thanks for joining in. I'm super excited today. We're talking about a really, really cool topic, and it's all about dog handling. And I'm going to bring an expert on the line. But here's the deal. So you guys know by now I've got this dog named Sasha. And Sasha, okay, I'm not a dog handler, but I've got a lot of friends that are. And here's the dilemma that I run into at times. I make her stay. We're in the park, and really hard time to make her stay when I see a squirrel. Some of you guys can relate to this. And the truth is, the moment she sits down, she only has one thing in mind. When is dad going to let me go so I can go run after that squirrel? The truth is, when I release her and I think I got things under control, I pretty much have the same release. It's okay, go. The thing is with Sasha, what I've noticed is when I do that, she hasn't lost the attention on the squirrel, and then she tends to go for it. Now, I know there's a lot of coaching you guys could give me, a lot of my friends in dog handling, but the truth is it kind of raised the question, my released words, how good are they? And well, here's the deal. As you can see here, our good friend of this show, Jessica Ajoux, a very, very successful agility dog champion handler, has been working on something, and it's called Release Words 2.0. So when I was sharing that story with her and she told me that, I was like, we got to get together. So without any further ado, we're going to do this show right now and tell you all about Release Words 2.0. And as you know, on this show, there's a lot of great opportunities for you to get the show notes. There's a really wonderful write-up that she's done about Release Words 2.0. It's brand spanking new. You'll get access to that for free. All you have to do in the actual show comments, just go ahead and put in the notes, just put the word release. When you put the word release, you'll get access to all of that. And we're also doing a drawing on one TDC. So let's get going. Oh, and the other thing too, when I bring Jessica on board and you hear something that's new, something that you really believe in, or something that really you want to share with somebody else, in the notes, make sure that you put the word paw love. Let me put that on the screen so you can actually see it, because it's a goofy way to write it. That's going to encourage us to know what you're learning, what you want to learn more of, and also you get into a drawing for one TDC. So, all right, let's get going. Let's bring the star of this show right now. Here we go. Let me hide this picture and bring our good friend, Jessica Ajoux. Here we go. Hey, Jessica. Thanks for joining again.
Hi, Olivier. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to have you and really talk about this topic about release. Because I have to tell you, I mean, with Sasha, and I'm not nearly any near you guys' talents in dog handling, but that's a problem. And I've got this one word. So we got to get into this. What is this whole thing about release words, and what exactly are release words in your role as a dog handler?
Sure. So I think the first place we have to start, like you said, is like, what is a release word? And a release word doesn't make sense unless you think of a stay. So like if you taught your dog teaching your dog to stay, it's hard for them to understand that they're not supposed to be moving unless they understand when they are supposed to.
That's right.
So I would say like a pretty foundation stone of dog training is, if you're teaching your dogs to stay, then you have to have a way to let them know the stay is over, you may go. And that's a release word. So a word or a verbal cue that tells your dog the stay is over, you may now move. Common release words are okay, break, free. I've heard release, I've heard all right. It doesn't matter what the actual word is. It's just the signal that now the dog does not need to stay anymore. I myself use break for, I think it's like about over 50% of my dogs are break, but some of the other ones are okay. So I have to keep it in my head.
So really there's a difference sometimes from one dog to the other. So let me just ask you, because I understand what a release word is. And I mean, not to state the obvious, but as far as the importance of it. So why is it so important? And I really want you to lead us into this concept of this 2.0, because I know you've been working on this kind of secretly, and you've been kind of bringing to the testing, and you got puppies that we all know are really, really cute. So tell us, why is this so important and from a dog handling standpoint?
Sure. So a release word is crucial, because without it, you don't have a stay. So if your dog does not understand when the stay behavior is finished, meaning you may now get up and move, they will not understand when to stay. Or maybe they'll stay, but you certainly don't have control over the duration of that stay. Right? So the release is our control and information to tell them, now you do not have to stay anymore. You may get up and move. And what's been brewing in my mind is that
we want to know what's brewing in your mind.
Yeah, and this is through my experience in training and teaching, and we have to say agility is not getting simpler. Like there's a lot of behaviors that are more complicated, and we're teaching our dogs many more things. And what happens is if I've trained my dog stay, and this happens like specifically with Fame, because I was super strict about you are not allowed to move until I say the word break. And she will not move until I say break. And so the problem is if I say break, she starts to move very fast, but what is she actually supposed to do? And what I found through experience is that they really understand Fame. Go back to your example about Sasha. When you're good?
Yeah, it broke my mind for like 5-10 seconds, and I don't want to lose because you're about to give us a good Paul Love golden nugget.
Sure.
So step back like 5 seconds.
Sure. So I'm using the example of Famous, who I trained very well to listen to her release word, which is break. And what she has told me is that when I say break, she gets up and moves very fast, and she starts to do whatever it was she thought of. So whether it was what she thought I wanted or what she was thinking, to her, break means, and now do the thing I'm thinking of, which is what I think most of the dogs are doing. So you think of your example with Sasha, if you've told her stay, and in her brain she's going scroll, 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 scroll.
She wants to go.
If you release her with your okay, go, well, I'm going to bet that she's going to get up and go chase the squirrel. Now, what if you wanted her to actually come to you? What if you wanted her to get out of her stay and come to you?
Right.
Okay, and then your recall word. But the problem is when they hear that okay, they go, and then hopefully she heard the second part. Against squirrels, it's a little harder. And how it relates to agility is that if I'm trying to teach a new behavior and I've said, okay, now you should start, if they don't know that behavior, how can they get up and do it? So usually there's some confusion, and this is kind of what I was running into and why the idea of having multiple release words might actually be clearer for the dog and be the better way.
Yeah, so what you described is like exactly what happens. It's like she's sitting down, I'm literally in the woods, and there's plenty of squirrels right now, and I have her stay. She's staying next to me, and you're right, that is the first word that I say. I say, okay, and then I say go or something else, but I think you're right. The moment I say the word that she's used to from a release, like her brain just goes, like she's super excited. Hey, folks, if you just join us, we are with Jessica Ajoux. She's a very, very talented dog handler, very accomplished canine sports dog agility champion. Many of you folks know her, and she's talking to us today about this concept of release words and the whole aspect of the 2.0. And very, very interesting. So thank you for joining. If you just joined as well, if you want to get the show notes, if you want to get the article, if you want to get the article that Jessica just produced about release words 2.0, just go into the notes and put the word release, and you'll get access to that. As a matter of fact, also we're also giving away some of the One TDC product. Many of you folks are using it, so just go ahead and put the hashtag in the notes, Paw Love. All right, so let's go into the next question because we're getting a good foundation. Here's the next question for you. So why would I want more than one release word? You start talking about that, but if you could give us a little bit more context into that from a practicality standpoint.
Yeah. So I think I'll give an example. It's like it helps outline the thinking here. So like I said, if I'm Verb is very interested in the topic.
We want to see Verb. Come on. Look at that little face.
Verby.
Hi, sweetie.
Oops, got to get the camera going right. So he's
Oh,
got a very pointy nose verb.
and where are the babies?
They are being very good and quiet and patient in their crates off over here. So.
Nice. They are so cute. We're so enjoying them. So you're probably right into this release word 2.0, probably practicing that on new pups. That'll be awesome
Yeah,
to learn.
definitely. So, like the example I'm giving is like if Fame only knows that break means like start doing something,
Right.
what is that something? And let's give the example of teaching the dog to go to a backside, or even a dog who understands that they should go to a backside.
Yes.
Typically in agility, we leave them in a stay. And if we're in front of a jump, I'd say like a good percentage of the time they're jumping the front side. And if you just say, okay, the first thought that dog has is, I'm going to jump the jump. Now,
Right.
if I say, okay, and then backside, right, which is like push or whatever, or push is the backside cue. First, they have to get up and they don't really know what they're doing, except maybe they're going to the front. Then you tell them push, and either one of two things happen. It's a little delayed, or they didn't listen to it in the first place and they're already doing the first thing. So that is like a two-step process if you only have one release cue. So that's where the idea, like that, through training this is making me think maybe I should actually be releasing my dog with instructions. And so that kind of took form into like thinking it's more of an instructional release. So what if instead of saying okay, then backside cue, what if I just told my dog backside cue? And that allowed the dog to have the information while they were still stationary. And then once I've told them they can move, which is implied within that cue, they could immediately go there rather than having to go, I'm moving. Wait, what did you say? Or I'm moving. Correction. And having to change the dog's mind. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it is. So you really are going into the emotional psychology of your dog who has the anticipation.
Right.
And
Well,
you,
dogs anticipate as soon as they know what you want or think they know, they anticipate. And so getting them to change their mind is more difficult than if they were thinking the correct thing. Obviously, it's also more efficient for them and clearer if they're thinking the correct thing first.
got it. So basically, instead of making it two words, that's the reoccurring okay, which is the release or break, like you're saying, and then giving the instruction, if I understand you correctly, you're actually using the word to release as the instruction. So there's no confusion where the dog can start thinking, well, like in my case with Sasha, I want to go get that squirrel. You give me an okay, but you also said follow you, but you know, I want to get that squirrel more.
Yeah. So I'd actually almost reverse that. So
Okay.
it's more of the instruction gives them permission to start.
Got it.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think the moving towards the handler is a good example, because like if you're in the park and you've told her stay and she's thinking squirrel, 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 right? And you were to say you're okay, first she's thinking squirrel, and then you tell her your word that means come to you. What is your word that means come to you?
Usually, literally, it's like, okay, go or come. That's
well, but go
really
go
good.
is go. Which one would, like if you wanted her to come to you, what would you say?
Oh boy, she got me exposed on my lack of knowledge.
Like if you just want her to come to you, what would you say?
I would literally say, come here.
Come. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of saying okay and then come, you would just tell her come. And that way she could process, he wants me to do this thing, and that thing involves coming to him, and it does not involve the squirrels, which is maybe what they were thinking of. And if she was already thinking of coming to you, that's no problem too. It's just going to work that way.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Folks, if you just joined, we are live with Jessica Ajoux, a very accomplished dog agility champion handler, and she's covering for us this whole concept of release word, but really going to the next level with the 2.0. And if you just joined, make sure that you go into the notes and put the word release. That's going to get you access to the show notes, a giveaway that we're doing of the one TDC that many of you folks are using. And also she's got a really cool article that really goes into the depth of what this release 2.0 is. So if you like to read, awesome. If you want to get the show notes, you'll get that as well. Okay, so I totally get the concept of what you're talking about, but I gotta ask you. This is new. This is something that's been brewing. You're starting to test it. So, is it working? What are you seeing as a difference?
Sure. So that's a big yes. It's definitely working.
Awesome.
I'm a person who doesn't tend to just do things because I'm told to. I have to figure it out or understand it on myself first, or know the rationale and the reasoning behind it before I'm going to adopt anything. I'm
That's
sure it was
fair.
super fun to parent. I could ask my mom about that. But
We should get her on the show next time without telling you. That would be fun.
yeah, she'd have some. I mean, mostly I followed instructions, but I definitely do better if I understand why and why it's working. So, to get me to change what I have been doing and doing successfully over the last 20 years, I've been doing agility now.
Wow.
It has to be because it's the right thing to do. And the reason I know it's the right thing to do is how our dogs are responding, because we are learning from the dogs. And if we're listening to what they're telling us, they immediately understood and saw the difference. I wouldn't change it if it were causing problems. And all I've seen is that the dogs are understanding quicker and actually able to learn a little bit better because there's less confusion. I'll even say this, like, I knew there was a little bit of I don't want to say problem, but something that needed to be considered about this topic, which is why I've been thinking about it for so long. Because previously, I knew that if I knew I could say break and release the dog. But let's say in a situation of a lateral lead out, and I know that's a technical technical agility term. But
Right.
if you leave the dog in a stay and the handler goes far away from the dog, I got to do it backwards. Okay. When you say okay, dogs usually want to run towards you.
That's right.
Okay. If you want that dog to move away, okay, I wouldn't say okay. I would say out, or I would say go, or something, which got the dog to move in the direction I wanted. So I already had some exceptions within my system because I knew that if I said, okay, that dog was going to come to me.
Right.
So I needed to correct their thinking with a different instruction, right? By telling them to move away. So when you start to get a lot of exceptions within your rule, you perhaps need to relook it. Yeah, review. And so the idea of allowing dogs to release from stationary positions on instructions, like instructional cues, which there are many of, really has worked much better. And so applying it to the puppies, for sure, being very conscious about that from the beginning, and changing it for our current dogs. And I'll say the only struggle that I've run into is with Famous, who, don't tell her, but is a little bit older. She's 10 now, and she,
Nice.
she's had a lot of repetition. The other version with me being super strict about it. So for her, it would be a little bit of a learning curve. I'll say that's the only thing I've found. But it even the other, like the Optimus and Lou, who are 3 and 5, they're like, obviously, you want me to go to the backside, I will go. So it's making a lot of sense to them.
So what you're saying, I think this is a really important point. So and by the way, I'm going to put that up so people can see it as well. You want to make sure that you're putting the word release in the notes, because as you see, we're doing some cool show giveaways. The one TDC product will be a giveaway, but everything that Jessica is talking about from the concept and psychology is very well explained in a nice document that she's put together for you guys. And so you can put that really literally into practice and read through it at your own speed. And of course, you'll get the show notes as well. But I want to go into the aspect of what you talked about, because like Sasha, like Famous, they're 10 years old. So what you're saying, puppies, no brainer as you implement that. And the younger ones, and I think that's reassuring too, because like you said, it's like, we're really training ourselves, not just the dog. So
Right.
It's great to hear that your experience has been positive and using it with the dogs pretty quickly.
Yep.
So, if you guys are thinking about doing this, Jessica's saying it works. So older dog might be a little bit tougher, but Famous also pretty headstrong, super energized. So I guess it take a little extra.
I mean, quite honestly, I wish I had done it with her like years ago, because she's the type that moves and then thinks. So I was telling her she could start to move, but she wasn't necessarily going in the right way, and she was already one to want to move very quickly. So I think it would have offered her more clarity with what I was asking had I implemented that.
That makes sense.
Within her agility career.
And I got to tell you, what you're sharing is resonating with folks. I'll just put that on the screen. And if you guys have questions, this event is really for you. So as you hear Jessica talk about this, if something comes up, go in the notes, we'll grab it. And Tina, I'll give you a little kudos and thank you for giving us some feedback. She says she loves this. She can clearly see this. Not Olivier, but with Oliver. There you go. See, I thought Olivier from the get-go. Look at that. So yeah, great feedback. Thank you, Tina, for that. And hopefully you'll get the show notes and so forth. You can really implement some of the strategy that Jessica is sharing. So don't hesitate, folks. If you've got questions, we're kind of keeping on the lookout on the side. Okay, so now that we understand the concept, you've made it clear that we can use that with a younger dog, middle-aged dog, and even older dog. It'll take a little bit more work. But now, so the question is there any specific examples, instructional release words? You've talked a little bit about that, but there's anything that you can help folks that want to test this out? And maybe specific words to work on strategically.
Yeah, especially because we're so programmed to think I have my one magical release word and this is the magic word.
Right.
Well, here it's basically it's an infinite number of words, because so long as it's a cue that the dog has been trained to understand, right? That could give dog permission to move. So I would say, even think if they're in a sit and you want them to move into a down, you don't say, okay, down. You just tell them down. That right there is already the idea of an instructional release. Here's what I want you to do now. You may move, and this is what I want you to do, right? So it's basically any cue. It could be like, let's say the dog is running an agility course and they're in a stop contact, like at the end of the dog walk. And coming up next, there's the weave pulls. Rather than saying, okay, weave, just say weave. That way the dog can immediately look for the pulls and go without having that little two-step delay. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought, please.
No, I was just saying, sometimes you don't see it as graphically because the dogs are already thinking of the weave pulls. But, if there was a tunnel right next to the weave pulls and you say, okay, that's the first thing they hear. And I'm not sure which one they're going towards first. You better hope it's the one that you want. But why not just tell them the one you want right off the bat? So I think it's clearer and faster, and basically any cue can be a release word.
So it's really, you're going into, like we talked about earlier, the psychology of the dog. You prevent the dog from making the decision. You make it clear what that decision needs to be in the release based on your instruction.
Well, I'm giving them the instruction and then giving them as much opportunity as possible or the most time also, to register it and then pick which way they want to
Got
move.
it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, good. We're learning. Let me see. I think we've got some questions coming in too. We got Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. You got a big text there for us in feedback. And let me just put down the screen. It's a big one there for folks. I don't know how much we can. Actually, it will come through. Lynn has been a fan of the show for a while, and she actually uses one TDCs, give us some wonderful feedback on it, and is always watching the videos. And she also studies with Susan Garrett as well, which is nice because there's a lot of knowledge. Sometimes as a student, you can put all that together. Let me just say, come here. Okay. She's explained actually what her experience has been. It's too long of a quote to actually put it on there. But Lynn, thanks for chipping in and giving some feedback. Everyone can see that actually in the notes. If you have a short questions, we'll be able to pull that up as well. Let me go into something really, it's kind of an obvious question, but it's an important one. So, while having so many possible release words, can that ruin my stay?
Yeah, I think that's the fear.
Yeah.
That's what would hold people back from necessarily changing from a system that you that is working, right? If you have a clear release word, they will not break their stay. Well,
Right.
no, I'll tell you this, it won't break your stay, because truly what maintains stays is clarity of when you're allowed to go, and then maintaining that the dog has to wait for that permission, that instruction. I can't even see my quotes. That permission or that instruction, right? So here's the thing. If my dog is allowed to release on the word come, or on the word back, or on the word weave,
Yes.
okay, they still have to wait for me to say it. So, if they break or push the envelope by anticipating the verbal release, your stay will deteriorate for sure. But that would be true with one release word as well. So what will ruin stays is not being consistent about requiring the dog to wait until they hear that verbal cue, and becoming unclear and confusing them. But I'm not finding at all that whatever, like having multiple release words or instructional releases ruins the stays. It's just good old inconsistency that ruins stays.
Got it. That makes sense. So if I just watch this live show and I'm getting the show notes, and I'm gonna get, folks, just go into the show notes here, and just not the show notes, but in the comment section, in the chat area, and just put the word release. You'll get this show notes, you'll get drawing for the one TDC, and as well, you'll get a really good article from Jessica talking about this release words 2.0. So if someone is listening to this and they're going back to their field, agility field, or doing some training today, and they were to start testing this, is there any particular, say, when you do this progressively, go with this one? Just this is probably one of the first ones you can start with, and it's kind of a no-brainer, and to get really not the dog, but to get the handler comfortable with the concept.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it would depend a little bit on the dog's nature, but something that comes to mind agility-wise is if your dog is very obstacle-focused and they are very sure that they know what that first obstacle is going to be, you might try releasing, like with your word that means come to you, your come to hand, close, here, whatever concept speaks to you. But the one that means don't take that obstacle, come to me, and see if that works. Because if you say okay first, 90% of the time they're going to think of that jump, and then maybe you can change their mind or maybe not. But putting them in front of something that they desire, I guess it could just be even like a toy out there, right? If you put their toy, you put your squirrel, but that will be harder in the park.
Explain where I am.
And just try releasing them with the word that means come to me, and see if that doesn't resonate to them. Sometimes, remember this, when dogs are thinking, they often slow down. So I wouldn't be surprised that if you set this up for the first time and your dog is in a stay, and you say, let's say here, that's the word I use to mean come to me, that they almost freeze and don't move. Because I've had that experience with my own dogs and with student dogs, and right away the person tells me, oh, well, they won't move until I say okay. And it's maybe true that they have been trained to do that, but two other things. One, they could be going, this is different. I haven't experienced this, right? So when they're thinking, they slow down. So maybe that's all that's happening, and you just have to show them what you mean. Right. And the second one that I've seen, or I guess this is the third thing, is that they were maybe thinking jump, 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 jump. And all of a sudden they hear here, and they're like, that's not what I was thinking. And they don't immediately get up and move because it wasn't what they were expecting, but at least they register it and heard it. So, there will be there's possibly some pieces of confusion, but more than not, what I found when they freeze and don't move is because they're not sure what you're actually asking for.
Got it. That makes sense. So bottom line is learn it, study it in the reading, get the show notes, and then test it gradually, and expect the dog to have some slight adjustment in the beginning. But I sense that based on what you're describing is dog wants to perform, especially you guys dogs. They're eager to go, most
Yeah,
of them.
they want to get it right. They really
Yeah,
do.
that's a
Yeah.
really good point.
I think of the biggest place that you'll see this concept take hold is when teaching new behaviors. I mean, I think about with a jump. There are many different things a dog can do with the jump. They could jump the front. They could jump it going left, going right. They could go to the backside. They could go to the other backside. There's all these things that they could do with the jump. And when you are teaching a dog these new things, right? Especially if they know one of them really well. Say you've already worked on the front side and they're like, I'm going to jump the front side, right? And you want them to learn about going to the back side. Saying okay will not help your cause there because they're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over.
Right.
You are better off to just give that instruction. So that's the biggest place we have found the value here when teaching new behaviors, because saying okay isn't descriptive enough when the thing that you're trying to get them to do is perhaps not right at the forefront of their mind.
Yeah, it sounds so logical when you're explaining it. No, seriously.
I know. It's like, why did it take so long? And like, I think actually one of the comments was that's what is done in obedience previously, and it's true. It worked.
Right.
Got a little. I don't know when. Like someone who studies, I guess, all the history of dog training might know exactly when the one word release and agility came up, but it's just it's not the most effective, is all that I found.
Well, like you said, the world of dog agility is constantly evolving. So
yeah, dog training too.
And dog training. So we appreciate. You've given us a lot of information, like from the leads, the four ways, now the release words 2.0. Really, really valuable information. If you just join us, actually, you're coming at the right time. We're about to do a recap. Where we're going to reintroduce the subject, and then I'm going to hide Jessica for a moment, and we're going to bring it back. So if you just joined, stay tuned. And if you've been here all along, we thank you for watching. But at the same time, guys, hang tight. We're about to do the recap and really go into the nuts and bolts of the top 5 tips of what this release 2.0 release words 2.0. Okay, so you know the drill. I'm going to hide you, and we're going to start over. Okay, here we go. All right, folks, thanks for joining. We are about to go with Jessica Ajoux and learn all about release words. And here's the deal. Many of us have the ability to make our dog stay. And from a dog handling standpoint, we tend to have one word like go, break, that lets the dog know it's time to go. Well, what if there was a different way of doing this to be even more efficient so that the dog really does what you want them to do next? Well, to learn about that and to think about this new way of thinking about it, I'm going to bring Jessica Ajoux in. Here we go. There we go. The magic. Hey, Jessica. Oh, and you came with a puppy.
Oh, what a sleepy puppy.
Look at that face. My gosh, those ears are getting big.
She's been listening to our talks here.
Oh, what a sweetheart. All right, so we are into the release words 2.0, and we want to understand the top 5 tips on that one from you, Jessica. So tip number 1, release words 2.0. What would be the first tip?
So I'd say basic release word, having a clear release word system is critical to maintaining your dog's understanding of day.
Got it. Repeat the last part, just like the 5 seconds. It froze on my end.
Oh, it broke up?
It's the puppies, too cute.
Sure. I know, she's distracting. All right, so point number 1, basic understanding of why we even have release words. Having a clear release system is critical to maintaining your dog's understanding of stay.
Excellent. All right, so that was tip number 1 for you folks. All right, let's go. Release words 2.0. Tip number 2.
All right, it's having more than one release word is actually a good thing.
Okay, you heard it. Tip number 2. All right, release words 2.0. Tip number 3.
All right. Instructional releases tell the dog what to do and when they're allowed to start. Got it.
Excellent. Oh,
Lord, like, I know this already.
You're right, yeah, mommy. I go straight to 2.0. All right, I'm getting confused. Tip number 4 for us.
Okay. Having these multiple release words and instructional releases, it reduces the confusion for the dog and it facilitates teaching new behaviors.
Excellent. Great tip. All right. Release words 2.0. Last tip. Number
Right.
5.
This is the important one. Having multiple release words will not ruin your dog's stay so long as you are still consistent with maintaining the idea that your dog has to wait for that word, whatever that word is, before they start.
Excellent. Jessica, thank you so much. You have just opened up a new horizon for many of us about this release words and really taking to the next level, 2.0. We're about to wrap up. If you have not yet gotten the opportunity of getting the show notes, a great document article that Jessica put together for us on this, in the little chat section, make sure you put the word release. You're going to get access to all that and even a drawing of the one TDC. This pup, how old are the puppy now?
Oh, they just turned 4 months.
My gosh, they are just so cute.
Oh no, she's sweet. This is Genuine, or called Jenny.
Like
Very bored by this whole situation.
Hey, we love the clean mouth and the pink gums. Keep that. I know you guys already used the one TDC, but and this is a common question that
Our
people
little
ask since you have a
peepees are
pup.
coming in.
Is when should you start? You can start when they're very young. Sometimes people start them. Sometimes even if the teeth, like some of the canines, get stuck, you start using the one TDC right away to really release the discomfort. But as a general rule, by the time they're 6 months old, start on a maintenance phase. So you're protecting that super healthy, good-looking gums. Oh my gosh.
See, I learned things too today.
Well, it's all about sharing. Jessica, I want to thank you for your generosity in sharing what's brewing on your mind and sharing today the Release Words 2.0. That's what I really enjoy about you. You're constantly evolving and thinking and using all that degree from Princeton in psychology to figure things out with a dog's mind and our minds as well.
Well, thank you. They're the best teachers that we have.
Yes, they are. And yeah, look at that face. Oh, you're getting a lot of licking there. Look at you.
She's very lucky.
Folks, thank you so much for joining. We'll have more. Jessica is a fantastic guest, and we always appreciate her. So, Jessica, thank you, and we will see you the next time.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.